The Dumbo Octopus. All right, we're talking about this really cool cephalopod. Cephalopod means octopus, really. That's just the fancy scientific name for him. And basically, it's a newly discovered organism, and so it's a great case study for us to look at to see if we can prove that he's living. Now, you and I, if we were to come across the Dumbo octopus, it's pretty clear he's living, but we can prove it by looking at those 7 characteristics of life. So that's what your task is going to be today. So when you click right here on Dumbo Octopus Reading, it will pull up a copy. So if I click on it and I go ahead and go right here where it says Dumbo Octopus, it says, would you like to make a copy? Anytime this pops up, click yes. So you're going to make a copy of the text so you have your own version. It's all yours. And what's going to be important is when you're done with this assignment, you're going to need to find this document. It'll save in your drive. All right, so the task here, the Dumbo octopus. Prove the Dumbo octopus is a living creature by finding evidence in the text that exemplifies all 7 characteristics of life. That means you're looking for 7 different examples. Okay, I'm going to be counting. And you're going to add a comment to that example, and you're going to explain which characteristic you're showing me and why is it an example of that. Okay, here we go. If you scroll down, here's the checklist, right? You have a checklist of 7 different characteristics I gave to you for reference. And as you read through, my suggestion to you is just to read one time through. It's just like 2 short paragraphs. It's really not much reading. You're going to read one time through for gist, and that's it. And then come back and start looking for those examples of those 7 different characteristics. So I'm going to read about 3 sentences for you guys, show you how I would get started, and then I'm going to leave the rest to you guys. It says here, begin reading. The Dumbo octopus is one of the most adorable and interesting animals found at the deep levels of the ocean. It lives at the bottom of the sea, from 9,800 feet to 13,000 feet. And eats worms, and this word is crustaceans. That's like crabs, shrimp, lobsters off the ocean floor. Because of the intense pressure due to the depth of the ocean, it makes propulsion difficult. Propulsion is a type of movement. So if you were a rocket ship and you're blasting off, we call that jet propulsion. And we call it that because there's this force pushing down, and because you're pushing so hard down, there's this opposite and equal reaction pushing you up. So imagine you're floating in a pool and you're laying on your back and you start flapping your arms. What direction do you go? Backwards, because you're showing propulsion. You're pushing a force down, which makes you go in the opposite direction. And so this is how octopus move in the ocean. It says propulsion is the typical movement of an octopus. This octopus has small ear-like fins, and we'll stop there. So let's talk about these 7 characteristics. Already I found at least one example in the text. Maybe you caught it too. But let's talk. We want to find examples where it talks about cells, being made of cells, where it talks about being organized. Don't forget, organized just means that he has body parts, right? He has organization because these cells build up into tissues, which build up into organs and organ systems. So anytime it talks about a body part, that's an example of him being organized. Using energy. Well, you need to eat to use energy. Or if it talks about any kind of action, that's using energy too. Being able to respond to your environment, that means something happens and you respond as a reaction to it. Growing, reproducing, and being adapted. Adapted means change over time. And so you want to find an example of each of those. And I'm going to talk about the one that caught my eye, and it talks about what he eats. So I'm going to highlight right here. He eats worms and crustaceans off the ocean floor. Because I want to use this as my example, I'm going to go ahead and now add a comment. So this little plus sign, that's my comment button. So click add comment. And so what is this an example of? Which characteristic is talking about food and what they eat? To me, it's using energy. So I would write down uses energy. And then I would explain that because he eats worms, this shows right? Or maybe you want to talk about his propulsion as an example of him using energy. And so once you're done here, you're going to hit comment. Now check it. I want you to be careful not to do this. I'm going to push me out of the way. Maybe. Here we go. See this check mark? If you start clicking on that, it's going to make it go away. So leave that be. Okay? Leave it there. So now your comment is here. I can see exactly what it's talking about because that'll highlight right there. So I know what your example is. When you're done with that, and now I've just used uses energy, I think it's really wise to go back to your checklist, find uses energy. Oh, there, I see it there. And I'm going to go ahead and double click on that little box. Now, if you click once, it'll highlight all of them. You want to double click just to get the one. And then you're going to right click and you're going to change it to a check mark. And now I can see that I've done that one. I don't need to find another example of that. I need to find the other examples. All right, good luck.